The doctor will be with you shortly,
Thank
okay?
you. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you. Wow. Can't believe you're here already. 6 weeks. Big girl. Yeah. He's smiling. He's smiling. Yeah. Oh, the doctor sounds nice. Sweet girl.
I was worried for nothing. Everything is fine. Or is it?
Let's talk.
Hi, and welcome back to Pocketbook Pediatrics. I'm Dr. Rachel Brown, and as usual, I'm always so happy to have you here with me today. And happy summer! I hope that you have been keeping yourself well and hydrated in this very hot time and safe. We have had some eventful days in our summer for this year already in Jamaica as we've dealt with hurricanes, and I know other areas have had some events as well. So I hope everybody has been keeping safe. But with that said, I'm happy to be back with you again, and we're going to continue on with our what to expect after expecting. But we're coming out of that precious newborn period now, and we're going to look at what happens at our other well visits. And now we can really start to kind of lump the visits together, because a lot of what we're interested in is going to be the same at each of the visits, just at different stages. So there are three main things that we're concerned with at our well visits. And the first is, how is baby developing? And we speak a lot about development. We're all about development. And we do have our videos on development already, so we're not going to delve too much into that. But remember that we're looking for baby meeting their milestones, and also keep in mind that it's not good for you to compare little Johnny to little Susie or little Susie to little Richie, because every baby is going to develop at a different pace. But what is important is making sure that you know those red flags for when your baby should be doing particular things. So make sure you check out those videos to be sure you know those red flag ages. So if your baby is not doing particular things, then we definitely need to have a deeper talk about what might be happening, right? So development, also how baby is doing with their feeding, when it's time to wean, potty training, all of those little things. We want all the details. Pediatricians are all about details. Okay, we won't refuse any. And then we're also interested in getting a baby caught up with their vaccinations. And that is where we're going to spend most of our time today, because we can say that we're going to give you the vaccine, but sometimes I don't know if parents really know what your baby is being vaccinated against and why vaccines really do work. So we're just going to talk a little bit about that, each of the different illnesses that we're treating or covering your baby for. And then the third thing that we're concerned about is anticipatory guidance. That is what is going to happen between now and the next time you see us in a couple months. We want you to know what to expect. And we also want to hear, what are your concerns? What are your observations? Because you're the best person to tell us all about your baby, right? So we want to know if there's any way that we can fill in any gaps that might be causing a little bit of problem for you, or provide some advice in a particular area. So let us know if there's anything that you're particularly concerned about that we can help you with. We'll be happy to talk through those things with you as well. So let's get to talking about these vaccines now. So what are vaccines and why do they work? And this is just a little bit of a recap. We've spoken a bit about vaccines in other episodes before. And vaccines are really a way of introducing germs to your baby's body, but not a full-blown germ like when you catch a cold or, get GE or anything like that. We're giving your baby a weakened or a dead version of the germ that gives the body an opportunity to be exposed to what the germ looks like without really making your baby sick. And so if we think about the body like a battlefield, it really comes to light, because on a battlefield you have good guys and you have bad guys. Okay, our bad guys are going to be these germs, and then the good guys are going to be those cells in our bodies, the antibodies, the white blood cells, those things that help our body to stay healthy or build up what we call immunity, right? So When we expose your baby's body to what the cells look like, then your baby is able to build up cells to be able to fight that infection. So if you think about going out to battle, the first time you come against an opponent, you may not really know how to fight. And when it's the real germ, that's when you get sick because you don't know how to fight this thing off. But the second time that you're exposed to that same germ, you have an idea of how this opponent works and what it looks like. And so you're ready for the fight. And that's what vaccines do. Make your body ready for that fight in a safe way. But why do we even need to give vaccines? You might ask, well, Dr. Brown, why not just let them get the infection a natural way? Why do we need to give them vaccines and, cause them to get a stick and cry and all of those things? And the reason is that when vaccines were being created, all of these illnesses that we're vaccinating against were found to cause some serious problems, because here's the truth: you're being exposed to many things all the time, all sorts of things your body is responding to, but we don't give you vaccines for everything. We only give you vaccines for certain germs, and that's because these germs were found to be, one, particularly contagious. That means they pass from one person to another very easily, or they're catching, we say in Jamaica. So it would cause epidemics that's within a smaller region, and in pandemics, as you're familiar with the COVID-19 vaccine, very quickly. So, or rather COVID-19 infection, I should say, they would cause infections across the world and across countries very quickly. And so it was thought that, boy, we need to prevent these things from happening. But the second thing is that these types of germs have been particularly bad. They cause a lot of what we call morbidity. So the bad effects that are associated with having these germs, and that can sometimes be disabilities that you have after having the infection, or just the degree of the infection, sometimes causing seizures or infections around the brain and spine, and very bad things. So the morbidity associated with infection. And then the third thing is also the mortality that has been associated with it. That means the death rate that these particular germs would cause. So some of these germs, all of them actually, can be quite fatal, and particularly for very young children. So it was thought that if we could find a way to prevent these germs from passing and to help the body to fight against these germs, then it would be a good thing. And the truth is that vaccines aren't only useful for your child, but they're useful for your community as well, because there are children or older people in your community who may not be able to get vaccines for themselves. Maybe they might have a weakened immune system, probably because of medication they're taking or an illness that they might have. And so they're not able to receive vaccinations. But when your baby gets vaccinated and the other children in the community get vaccinated, it really helps to form a hedge of protection around those who cannot be vaccinated. So vaccines are useful for you, for your baby, for your community. So it's very, very important to keep your baby on point with their scheduling. So what vaccines is the baby going to get, and how is it going to be given? Now, most vaccines are given as an injection. The poliovirus and rotavirus are an exception. They're usually given by mouth. And we're going to talk about the schedule of how vaccines are given now, so which vaccines are given when. I'm going to stick to the Jamaican schedule just to prevent any confusion, but what's important is that you know where you live what the schedule is for your vaccine administration. But even though the schedule may be different, the vaccines are going to be the same. So this information is still important for everybody. So at that first 6-week visit after the newborn period, the baby is going to get their first dose of a vaccine that provides protection against 6 germs. Now, the baby may receive 1 injection, and most of the times we can give them all in 1 injection, or they may be given an injection and something to take by mouth, which is the polio vaccine. And if it can't be provided by mouth, then your baby may get 2 injections, but most of the time we're able to give 1 injection. And then they get booster shots of these same 6 germs at the 3-month visit and the 6-month visit. Now, what are these germs that they're being vaccinated against? So we named one already, that's the poliovirus. And then there's also diphtheria, pertussis, and tetanus. We tend to group those together and call them the DPT vaccine. And then there's hepatitis B and also Haemophilus Influenza type B. So we speak a little bit about each of these and what they cause. So poliovirus, what is this? Now, the poliovirus is a virus that affects your nervous system. And when it's attacking your nervous system, what it does is it causes paralysis or deadness, weakness to the limbs, particularly your legs. But also the respiratory system or your breathing system can also be affected by the poliovirus. So what was found in years gone by is that when children or people got this virus and it affected their breathing system, they had to be put on large breathing machines that were called an iron lung. So it's something that would encase their entire body and help them to breathe, much like how we have a ventilator today. But they would have to remain on this machine sometimes for weeks, months, and even years as their bodies were healing from this viral infection. And oftentimes patients would be left with a lot of disability, so still having paralysis in the legs, needing braces or wheelchairs or other assistive aids to help them move around. So definitely not something that we want our kids to be infected with. And then there's diphtheria. Now, this vaccine protects against the bacteria that causes respiratory illness. So it would cause fever, cough, swollen lymph nodes around the neck. And you might say, well, Dr. Brown, that sounds a lot like a lot of the viral illnesses that we have today. And that's very true. But the special thing about diphtheria is that it also would cause a gray coating, a thick gray coating to be formed around nostrils, tonsils, and the throat as well. So it would make it very difficult for people to breathe, particularly young children, and would often be fatal as well. So that's definitely something that we don't want our kids to be infected with at all. Then there's pertussis. The bacteria that this protects against causes what we call the whooping cough. And why we don't want our children to get whooping cough is because one of the complications of whooping cough is pneumonia. And it has been found worldwide that one of the leading causes of death in children under 5 is pneumonia. So as much as we can protect them from getting any really bad chest infections, we really do want to do that. Then there's tetanus. Now, the bacteria that the tetanus vaccine protects against, it can get into your body through cuts and wounds that we get sometimes when we step on a rusty nail, get cut by a piece of zinc, get cut by a barbed wire, and where the wound gets exposed to like dirt or animal stool or sometimes human stool as well, and it causes spasm of your muscles, and particularly spasm of the muscles in the jaw. So that's why it's called the lock jaw. So it causes those muscles to tighten up. It causes tightening of the muscles in the arms and the legs and the back. It causes seizures. So the complications of this illness are very bad, and it's considered a medical emergency. It requires admission to hospital for treatment. Then we talk about the hepatitis B vaccine. Now, we spoke about this one a little bit earlier before because we spoke about it for the newborn, that your baby is going to be getting it at birth now in Jamaica and has been getting at birth in other countries as well, because this virus tends to be passed on to baby during the birthing process, so from mommy to baby while baby is being born. And what we want to protect against with this is not necessarily an illness that your child will have when they're a child, but later on in life. This virus can affect the liver, causing liver failure, and also can cause liver cancer. So this is one that's looking long down the road to provide protection for your baby, now when your baby is an adult. And then Haemophilus Influenza B. Now, this vaccine is protecting against a bacteria that can cause a lot of respiratory illness again, but also causes ear infections, sinusitis, infections around the brain and spine, and meningitis that is called. And why it's really important to protect against this is because some of the complications of these illnesses are very bad. Your baby can end up with deafness or blindness or having problems with their development and learning in school later on in life. So it's really important to protect against these serious complications of these illnesses. Now, this is just the first 6 months, and then your baby is going to have a booster of the DPT and polio vaccines at their 18-month visit and between 4 and 6 years. And that is what is on the schedule for them. While Haemophilus Influenza B vaccine booster is not in the schedule, it is suggested that they receive it between 1 year and 15 months. And then there are other vaccines that your baby gets. But we're going to stop here for today because that really is a lot to take in about what each of these particular germs do and what we're really protecting your baby against. And then next time we're going to wrap all things up now, talking about well visits. When we talk about the MMR vaccine, which is the other one that is on the schedule, that is the measles, mumps and rubella vaccine, and then just briefly tell you about other vaccines that your baby can get that are not required by your government schedule, but that can be useful for your baby's health as well. And also we'll just touch a little bit on what happens after 4 to 6 years, because sometimes we can drop off on our well visits because we think after 6 years that's it, no more vaccines, no real need to come to the doctor unless we're sick. So we'll just touch a little bit on why it's important to continue your well visits after that 6-year visit. So I hope you understand a little bit better what your baby is really being protected against, why vaccines are important, and how they really are working to protect not just your baby, but really your community that you live in, and that you really will understand it's important to keep on point with getting your baby their vaccines on time. And if you fall off the schedule, your pediatrician will be happy to help you to get caught up. So thank you so much for watching. As usual, I really am so happy to have you here and really happy to be with you. Please remember, like, comment, subscribe, and share. And until next time, God bless.